Good morning. I'm Willie Bragg. Welcome to the Willie Bragg Show. And I am going to be revisiting well about assholes from the past that gets on my damn nerves. So um James Carville claimed he does not want to bring back memories of the 2016 campaign, and I don't. But he kind of forced my hand. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip, and the clip is from Generational Change. This is where I found out all this was happening. So I want to thank Jen Perlman, and I can never think of the co-host. I know his name is Peter. I don't know his last name, and I apologize for that. But I'm going to go ahead and play the clip, and I will comment on the clip as well. So give me a moment, and we'll go ahead and play that clip, as I said. Since the screen does what it needs to do. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Okay, guys.
We've spoken at great length on the show about how there is a consultant industrial complex.
Oh, yeah.
And there is nobody who is higher up on that ladder than James Carville.
He was when I think of him, I think of he's the OG. Like, in terms of like Democratic Party consultants and little talking heads, when you're talking about the modern current status of the Democratic Party, the Clinton era Democratic Party, to me, I think of Carville as like that.
So do I. And when I think of James Carville, and I think of Bill Clinton, I also think of the Democratic Leadership Council and what that cancer called the DLC did to a political party that I should actually be, supportive of today. But the DLC did so much corrosive damage to the Democratic Party that it can't be salvaged. And I may have a little bit, not an extreme, but, slight disagreement with the co-hosts of Generational Change. I mean, I say that to them with due respect, because I do value what they have to say. They're largely correct on a lot of things. So, but anyway, I'll let them continue.
Am I wrong?
And he's not.
No, he is just.
His role is so bad is the fact that it's not just him.
Yeah.
It's his wife as well, Mary Madeline, who also happens to be a political consultant. She's a consultant for the Republican Party.
Right, which I always kind of, and it's funny because I remember thinking when I was younger how ridiculous that is, that if you were that far apart on things, especially things like right to choose, like how could you, it's gonna be challenging. It is what it is. Like if you're that.
Actually, James Carville's wife used to be pro-choice on abortion, and I suspect she probably is still, but it's a litmus test inside the Republican Party. And if you don't go around beating your chest on how pro-life you are, they will cancel culture your ass inside the Republican Party. My friend Dwight Welch once said, repeat after me, there's no moderate Republicans anymore. There are no more moderate Republicans. And I can see what he's saying now, because a lot of moderate Republicans are basically Democrats, and they're more or less will be stating that as such here. So I will let them continue once again.
At far apart on those things, how can you really be together? And I always question that. And then over time, it made more and more sense. First of all, they're both like political carnies. They're both white collar campaign carnies, both of them. And you are so welcome. You are so welcome.
Colin, can you please drop the video?
If you make me lose my train of thought, then I lose it.
I didn't mean to do that.
So my point is about Carville and her is it took me a while, but I realized the reason that they get along is because they really are the same. The parties are the same. They're all the same.
Each other.
Right.
People think that there's a difference. And
as I got older and realized the issue is capitalism. And when you realize that it's whoever buys and pays them, and they're bought and paid for by the same people. So then therefore they're the same.
So Democrat Party loyalist, and that's just the nicest thing I can possibly say about Jen Psaki, she decided to have on James Carville the other day to give his wonderful thoughts about Nikki
I hope
Haley.
Randall's watching. I hope Randall's watching, our patron.
So Nikki Haley, apparently, which shouldn't come as a surprise, is the absolute darling of the neoliberal Democratic Party. Now, a little caveat that came out this afternoon.
They're equally warmongers.
We're going to have a lot to talk about with Ryan Grimm in a few minutes, but make no mistake, the two parties work hand in glove when they want to push somebody out. So Mr. Carville simply couldn't help himself when he was on with Jen Psaki.
I don't want to relitigate 2016, but Bernie Sanders cost is one of the reasons that Trump is there. I think this is
Hold it right there, Buster. Hold it right there. I don't want to give the impression that I'm still a Bernie Sanders apologist, but I must challenge James Carville on this shit explanation he came up with. Well, Bernie Sanders caused Hillary Clinton to lose the election, is what he says here. And, well, James Carville, let me tell you something about Bernie Sanders causing Hillary Clinton to lose the election. That's not the case. She was a piece of shit candidate that ran for president. She was a piece of shit that ran for president. And you're a piece of shit with your connections with Bill and Hillary Clinton. Do you know what Bill... Yeah, no, I was going to ask the question, do you know what Bill and Hillary Clinton did to the Democratic Party? Because you also did this to the Democratic Party, too. You asshole. You, James Carville, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, people like Governor James Hunt, Jim Hunt here in North Carolina, people like Senator Chuck Robb of Virginia, people like Lindsey Graham, not Lindsey Graham, Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, people of that ilk, Dianne Feinstein, you name it, they all Reaganized the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, as much as I give him shit these days, was trying to correct that problem that you all created. You know what caused Donald Trump to become president? It was the George W. Bush wing of the Republican Party, and it was the Bill and Hillary Clinton wing of the Democratic Party. They are the reason that laid groundwork for the fat, orange, life-size Cheeto that entered the White House in 2016. Bernie Sanders did not cause Hillary Clinton to lose the election. Hillary Clinton caused Hillary Clinton to lose the election because she is a piece of shit. She is a bitch. She is an awful person.
He can't help himself, can he? He simply cannot help himself.
We were stuck with Trump because of Bernie Sanders.
It's Bernie Sanders' fault. Yeah.
Which is, I don't see how. If now, had Bernie been the one that went up against Trump and lost in an embarrassing fashion, then it would be his fault. But it's so, he is a farce of himself. He's not even real.
He is a caricature.
Yes.
He's not even real. And you know what? For a guy that comes off that way, he never seemed to give a damn about his bald head before, and yet now he only goes on TV with these stupid hats on.
I think
and the audacity with him with that United States Marine Corps hat. We all know he didn't serve in the Marine Corps.
Did he not?
Of course not.
How do you say of course not? I don't know. Don't say that if you don't know that.
Let me double check just to be sure.
Okay, I'm just saying. Now I'll argue that he could have found a better groomed hat. Like that looks kind of like it has the shredded edges, and he could have looked a little bit more.
I apologize. He did serve in the Marines, and not only did he serve in the Marines, he served in Vietnam. So okay, that's the only level of respect that I give him.
Thank you. My point being that the type of hat, to me, it just looks very sloppy.
It does. But he
looks very unkempt.
He's a sloppy guy with a lot of money.
Yes.
That Nikki Haley is saying, our hats off to these Republican donors that continue to support her. When, obviously doesn't have that much chance.
Okay, do y'all hear what he just said? He is praising Nikki Haley and the donors to Nikki Haley to keep things going on in the Republican primaries. Do you remember 20 years ago where a Nikki Haley Republican was vilified by even most normie Democrats. I'm not talking about your progressive wing, which the progressive wing turn out to be cucked, and they turn out to be really wussified and all of that, and they end up taking orders from Nancy Pelosi and end up taking orders from Chuck Schumer these days, and and taking orders from Bernie Sanders' good friend Joe. These, at least 20 years ago, at least your normie down the line Democrats, as bland and as generic as they were, recognized what the enemy was. And that was George W. Bush. It was Dick Cheney. It was people like Nikki Haley. But today, these Democrats do not have a problem with your George W. Bush, your Dick Cheneys, your Nikki Haleys, even your John Boltons, which even in the early Trump presidency, there were assholes like Glenn Beck praising John Bolton. When the Republicans draw the line in the sand, we're going to go here to the right. While the Democrats, they don't sit there and challenge them. They jump over that line, and they're willing to accept the line in the sand.
Just the idea that they are so gleefully cheering on the fact that Nikki Haley is getting heavily funded by billionaires.
Yeah. Can we go back to the last thing, though, which is, okay, so now we just confirmed that Carville is in fact a Marine and that he did in fact serve in Vietnam. And so now what he's doing is he's showing support for the biggest war hawk that's running for president. And that to me makes it even more despicable, because people that I respect, veterans, as I was watching Matthew Ho this morning,
especially Vietnam vets, but any vet, truthfully, it's all a sham. So like when I sit there and I watch someone like Matthew Ho and the people of the Eisenhower Network, and these people are out there doing everything they can to stop this bullshit from happening. And he's sitting there with his U.S. Marine Corps hat on and cheerleading for someone who is a giant warmonger, and he's the Democrat. Like, it's so bizarre, and a veteran.
Well, we also must never forget that Joe Biden, the president of the United States currently, when liberals, and I'm talking about the moronic pink pussy hat wearing morons out there, were crying about what a fascist asshole Donald Trump is. And honestly, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about that. I'm going to go and digress for a moment about the threat of a Trump presidency. Is he dangerous? Damn Skippy, he's dangerous. But you know what? We're getting closer and closer to World War III right now. So we're talking about humanity being extinct if this happens. So does it really matter, honestly, who wins in fucking November? Honestly, because we have two parties running against each other, and Donald Trump is sounding more hawkish now than he did the first time round. Glenn Greenwald basically said that I'm paraphrasing him, that we were accidentally less interventionist and the world was a little bit safer by accident, paraphrasing Glenn Greenwald, during the Trump presidency, because the Never Trumpers and these shit-lived resistance liberal Democrats and the Trump people were all fighting against each other, and there was a lot of dysfunctionality. And that dysfunctionality accidentally, the bright, the bright part of the cloud, the silver lining to the cloud, shall I say, was that dysfunctionality accidentally made the world the U.S. slightly low bar, but slightly less aggressive. But then turn around. This is not to say that Trump was a pacifist, because I could tell you the war crimes that Trump has committed while he was president that rivals anything Joe Biden and George W. Bush have committed when it comes to foreign policy. Need I mention them? People like the assassination of Qasem Soleimani in Iraq, early 2020, the Iranian general, the guy that helped defeated ISIS. That's a dirty little secret. A lot of people are like, well, all the Muslims are all the same. They're not all the same. There are some people out there, some of America's adversaries in the Middle East have the same adversaries as the United States. Iran And the United States have a common enemy with ISIS, a common enemy with people like the Al Qaeda. So I mean, but to hear it from Sean Hannity or someone like that, oh, they're all the same, and we got to go fight them all the same. That's the mentality, and the people who listen to talk radio, they hear that dumbed down message too. So, you got two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. They're both pro-war. You got a tiny faction of MAGA that may be anti-war. You got a tiny faction of the Democratic Party that's perhaps anti-war at this point. You got tiny factions. But you got a neocon Republican Party laced with social fascism on top, and you have a foreign policy neocon Democratic Party laced with shit liberty on top. It's not a socialist party. It is not a social democratic party. It is not a labor party. It's not a communist party. They're not anarcho-syndicalists. They're not Trotskyists. They're not Maoists. Whatever that the right wing wants to label the Democrats. At best, you can say that the Democratic Party represents the authoritarian center, the authoritarian moderates, whereas the Republicans are right-wing authoritarians. You have a right-wing version of authoritarianism being promoted by the Republicans, and then you have moderate authoritarianism being promoted by the Democrats. Authoritarianism is authoritarianism. So, anyway.
But every day that she's in there, every day that she's on the attack is a good day. And she's putting Donald Trump front and center. And a lot of these billionaire Republican donors that I really don't care for very much, thank God. I never thought, thank God for I'm able to cope.
Like the whole, I don't care for these billionaire donors. And
who's
I'm thinking,
paying for him?
Who's paying for your ass? Who's paying for Jen Psaki's show?
Exactly. Which billionaire?
Let me tell you something about James Carville. James Carville is extremely wealthy. And I don't mean like he's wealthy like maybe my boomer parents who basically work for the North Carolina state government in a public sector job and pinch their pennies and invest it wisely and have a nice pension to help them out in retirement and actually inherited maybe some property from their parents and mom, her parents, and my dad with his parent and things like that, and then added that to whatever investments they have become, where they're kind of upper middle class that kind of live modestly. He's not that type. He is filthy rich. We're talking about somebody who might be, I don't know how much he's worth. Wouldn't be surprised that he's got like $50 million or something, tens of millions of dollars in his account or what have you. And here's the thing. He doesn't know what it's like to survive. He doesn't, and to live in being part of the working class. If he did at one time, he's forgotten it. He's forgotten it for real. I mean, I don't consider myself wealthy. I'm not dirt poor, but I have to go pinch my pennies, and I have to go and make sure that my car insurance is paid on time, my internet bills paid on time, my power bill paid on time, whatever groceries are fill up in my refrigerator, that I have gas in the car, and my car is maintained, the common chores of just living. It's an afterthought to James Carville. For someone like myself, it's a way of life. I have to think each week how to get by to the next week. Again, I'm not in dire poverty. I don't consider myself poor, but I consider myself, I probably am lower middle class at this point. I have to be smart with my money and what have you. Sometimes I'm not. But the point I'm trying to make is he's out of touch. James Carville, it's just a little slogan to him, what it's like to make it by.
Who owns MSNBC? NBC Universal.
You don't care about those billionaires, then why are you simping for them?
But give the money. As long as it's helping us politically,
But he
then it's
sits
okay.
there. But to me, he is just total.
Hold on. Why is James Carville simping for millionaires? Oh, for the same reason someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene simp for billionaires and millionaires. And let me explain that. Some of these diehards on both parties, red MAGA and blue MAGA, this is what they'll do. They'll try to present themselves as folksy and down to earth, and all that. But you see, James Carville don't mind taking money from the billionaires. Now, the set of billionaires that James Carville and Jen Psaki and all these shit libs get money from, they're the billionaires who are like, they think that racism is bad. They think that, homophobia is bad. They think that they believe in tolerance and they're socially liberal and tolerant and all that. And I'm not putting them down for that. That's probably the only good thing you could say about these billionaires that will fund a James Carville or Jen Psaki. Then you have the Marjorie Taylor Greene variety of them. The ones who wants Christian Sharia, the ones who wants to lock up LGBTQ people, the ones that want cops to beat the crap out of minorities. You got that type that's on the right wing side. You have right wing billionaires, and then you have shit lib billionaires, and the money that they contribute to push for a common agenda. And they use the social issues and the culture war to divide us. And for some reason, there's a lot of Americans who lean slightly in one direction or the other that don't fully realize that or can't fully realize that. I'm not saying they're dumb for not realizing it, but it just doesn't faze them, no matter how much you try to let them know about that. Because we are the most propagandized nation in the world. And billionaires will make sure that we are occupied by things that we should not be occupied by.
Totally a Clinton simp. And I think of him in that total genre. And because of that, he's just online. But it's like they don't even realize that they've crossed over to the other side. That's how ridiculously cultish they are.
They've blurred the line.
They don't even see it. So this is a Vietnam veteran arguing for a war hawk.
Or something, but keep her in there and stay on the cutting edge, because that's gonna cost him. I promise you. And I think Liz Cheney is giving us some money. Great, I'm all for it.
We're gonna do a cheers to the Koch brothers and Liz Cheney in 2024. Welcome to 2024. Here's where we are.
Hey, you joke about it, Jen Psaki, but interviewing James Carville, but you had Rob Reiner. I used to respect the actor Rob Reiner. I used to respect the guy. I used to, as the meathead on All in the Family. I mean, he was correct as Michael Stivic correcting Archie Bunker's bigoted mindset. But the Carl Reiner, the Rob Reiner, Carl Reiner's played on the Dick Van Dyke Show for a second. I just forgot about that. Anyway, Rob Reiner of the 1970s will be looking at the Rob Reiner today and be like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he's basically argued for Liz Cheney. If Liz Cheney was running for president or something along those lines, that he would be glad to vote for her. Just to stick it to Trump. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm defending Trump, but this is how the Trump derangement syndrome goes. You have liberals who basically are pro Liz Cheney now because, Marjorie Taylor Greene is pro Donald Trump. The dirty little secret is, while I do not think that Donald Trump is like a great advocate for, let's say, LGBTQ issues, his position on LGBTQ equality is much closer to an AOC type, while Liz Cheney's position on LGBTQ equality would be closer to a Marjorie Taylor Greene type. Yet the shit lives like Liz Cheney. I'll put it another way. Do y'all remember when Michelle Obama and George W. Bush were hugging each other back in 2018, 2019, something like that? Well, think about it this way. And Jimmy Dore said it best. Liberals hated Ralph Nader because he gave us George W. Bush. Now that the liberals love George W. Bush, they still hate Ralph Nader. Think about that for a second.
Oh my God! I didn't even realize it was that bad.
Well, they really have just gone so far to the right, and to them it's just so matter of fact that now they're in bed with these people. It's very strange to me, and whatever. You want to sit there war hawking with Nikki Haley, war hawk with Nikki Haley. Have at it. But the fact that I find it, when I hear him talk the way he talks about Trump, it comes off extremely insecure to me. When I hear, and especially men, with women, it's almost just kind of like, I don't know, it's annoying, and it's annoying in its own way when women are so freaked out by Trump. It's almost like, suck it up, buttercup. But when it's men, I feel like, why are they so emasculated and so insecure and so threatened by him? Because it really isn't about policy. It's nothing reasonable. It's just that his persona is so threatening to them. It's nothing that he's done. It's not like James Carville cares about the environment and he's worried that Trump is going to be bad for it, or James Carville cares about saving people and cares about war. He obviously doesn't care about those things. So what is it about Trump that he finds so threatening other than it's just Trump? Which then makes me think that either just, I don't know, is it a small penis thing?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump probably has a small penis. Probably so does James Carville. But the point I'm trying to make is that she's right and he's right. Jen and Peter about Donald Trump, this derangement syndrome. Now, thing about it is we have a lot of problems, and Donald Trump is the perfect boogeyman. Do not be surprised if you ever find out that the Democrats would be possibly a little bit relieved if Donald Trump wins in November, because they will have a boogeyman to raise money off of. Oh, you're gonna have to give us money, because if you don't, Orange Man is going to go and put everybody that poo-poo on him in prison. That's what it's coming down to, that.
Just complete emasculate. Like, people are so threatened by him.
No,
it's weird.
When it comes to women, from my observation, it has a lot to do with, perhaps repressed memories and bad experiences.
Well, women have all been violated.
Yeah, so I think that's true. Trump is just so chauvinistic in his disposition in many instances that I think that it just triggers bad memories of experiences that a lot of women have gone through in one time or another. The thing with men, I'm not really sure, but I think that there's a jealousy factor. I think because Trump literally is just a glutton for punishment, and it completely bounces off him. Like, he doesn't react to it. Like, it really bothers him. And yeah, he'll totally talk about this person and that person, but at the end of the day, he doesn't run from competition. He runs towards it, like, every time.
On his terms. That doesn't mean he's going to waste his time and show up for a debate that he doesn't need to go to.
What does it say, though, about Jen Psaki in particular? This person was the press secretary of the president of the United States for over 2 years, and she ends up getting this job.
Well, it's a very common revolving door.
That's very true. But speaking of Jen Psaki as the press secretary, imagine, we're going to reverse for a moment to the year 2016 or 2020, when many of us thought Bernie Sanders was based. Imagine what a Bernie Sanders presidency could have been like instead of having Jen Psaki as the press secretary, and I can't think of the name of the current one at the moment. Imagine if it had been Brianna Joy Gray instead. How much better things could have been with a Brianna Joy Gray as press secretary. Imagine how much better things would have been. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
You are talking about somebody that is a press secretary, often does transfer over to media. I mean, another media job.
I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, the fact that the MSNBC, CNN sycophants out there complaining left and right about how bad Fox News is, this is just as bad.
But this is their team, so they're okay.
So their team, it's okay. You're supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm glad that Fox News is brought up, because Obviously, when I first watched Fox News, got familiar with Fox News, I didn't like it, and I never liked it. And that remained the case all these years. Now, Fox News kind of went, weirdly enough, through a momentary path of moderation during the Trump years. I know that sounds crazy, but they did for a tiny little while. They were not as they were kind of calming down on the pro-war stuff. They were sounding slightly more socially libertarian, as much as one could expect from Fox News. Then all of a sudden, they have turned around and they doubled down to the piece of shits that they used to be back in 2003. Back, toward praising war again, and praising crackdown against Muslims and immigrants and LGBTQ, and they have like hyped it up again and praising police brutality against minorities. And this is not hyperbole. It is because I'm telling y'all the truth and coming up with conspiracy theories. And I have a theory about that because One American News Network is on borrowed times because they're nuts, but there are probably just enough people that love One American News Network that they saw this as a cash cow for them, and that the Fox News decided they want some of those people back. So this is why you notice that they're sounding a little bit crazier in 2024 than, let's say, in the year 2019. That would be an explanation. And Newsmax, same thing with them. They both, Fox News and Newsmax, wants that crowd from One American News Network, which is to the right of Fox and to the right of Newsmax. You can imagine that. So I just kind of want to throw that out there too.
To be a journalist, host of a news show, and you're cheerleading for Nikki Haley against Donald Trump,
and just going out of your way to like lick the boots of Liz Cheney for whatever reason, like you just felt the need to get that in there when it wasn't even.
Hey, listen, I appreciate the transparency. I mean, on that, from that perspective,
tools are gonna tool.
Yeah, like from that perspective, it doesn't bother me.
I don't mind that. Look, it has been very common,
but it's that
former press secretary or spokespeople in the White House often go like George Stephanopoulos. I mean, like it's common. Okay, that's a common revolving door. And of all the revolving doors in DC, it doesn't come in closest to the most offensive. That's the problem. So like, I'm much more concerned with not the people that become talking heads. They were talking heads in the White House. Now she's a talking head out of the White House. She doesn't have any more power than she did when she was in the White House. She's still a talking head. So that's a lateral. Now, what bothers me is the revolving door of people that come in and then go into lobbying positions, and now they're paying and bribing the people that they worked with, or they now are the ones that are taking the bribes from, like, all of it. That's what's gross.
He's right. No, we need a strong Republican Party.
Yes.
That'd be it.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into...
Okay, I'm back. So anyhow, that's pretty much, well, I thought it was interesting listening to Generational Change just to see what their take is on it. And so for the most part, not that far removed from my take. I have my own little personal takes, as y'all can tell there and all that. But when I saw the video, I was just like, they were one of the few outlets that was in the alternative media that was covering this, because I think it's very important right now with the Democratic Party. Because here's the thing, there's a little secret y'all need to know about the Democratic Party, and I'm saying this like y'all don't know this. I think most people, my audience, would know this. The Democratic Party will occasionally give you a sense of false hope, because historically, for me, I got disillusioned with Bill Clinton real quick. When I tell the right-wing people all the time that Bill Clinton turned me into a socialist, not because he was a socialist. It was because he moved the party so far to the right, I didn't want anything to do with it. And I realized I was a socialist like people were telling me back in the early 1990s. So I became a socialist as a reaction to Bill Clinton. And I joined the DSA, and I joined the Socialist Party. I joined the New Party, which was the flavor of the month back in the 1990s. And I was voting green and socialist and everything. But I was still kind of like, well, at least Democrats got Paul Wellstone, back then and all that. But when it came to the Democratic Party, that was my first clue. The Democratic Party was a letdown, and And, I'm not going to go into too much history, but, when you're in the kind of far left, you end up in sectarian faction fights. And I'm not going to go into detail about that, but suffice to say, I went through that for many years and I got kind of burned out. I still had an interest in politics, but I got burned out as far as being active in politics. But I was disillusioned with the Democratic Party. Then I decided to be decided to go back to the Democratic Party during the Bush years a little bit because Bush was so reprehensible. And in 2006 was probably the only time I voted straight ticket Democrat in an election after the Bill Clinton 1992 election. And prior to that, was always voting Democrat. And I did vote straight ticket that particular election in 2006 because the right wing was just so out of bounds back then. And then I got disillusioned with the Democrats again. They went up to their same old Clintonized bullshit. So what happened is that Bernie Sanders came along. I was kind of burnt out from politics, and Bernie Sanders came along, and I got all hyped up, and everything, and I'm still hyped up to this day. Disappointed with Bernie, but hyped. But I finally realized with AOC, and I finally realized with the squad and Bernie Sanders calling Joe Biden his good friend, that maybe instead of being a part-time Democrat, maybe it's time to divorce myself from the duopoly totally. So nothing can change my mind. The duopoly is horrible. If you're a Republican-leaning person, you're disappointed with the Republicans, my advice is to reject the Republicans. You may go into a political party I may disagree with on the third-party side, but at least you're taking a stand. If you're a Democrat and you're on the left and you're disillusioned with the Democratic Party, definitely do the same thing. Reject the Democratic Party and find a political party, an alternative electoral voice that's more catered to you. Because the two parties don't give a damn about you and me. The two parties only give a damn about their fellow wealthy persons. And they will even work together. They will even work together to put a stop. I think there was a mayoral election in San Francisco where the Green Party was almost winning an election, and Democrats and Republicans did not want a mayoral, a mayor who was a Green Party member, and they did what they could. This is like in I think the late 90s. I just thought about that. I remember when that came out, I was really outraged. And they will work together. Nina Turner in Ohio, they did this to her. Not just the Democrats rigging Nina Turner, they did. But so did the Republicans in Ohio. They both did, and they will go and rig it to get rid of anybody that's problematic. So the whole entire electoral system is just, it needs to be. You just need to abandon it and fight like hell for something better. I mean, and for me, I would say ranked choice voting in all 50 states is the answer. It's the only way I can see the two-party system kind of eroding. You're going to always have Democrats. You'll always have Republicans, sadly enough. But you can slide a Green Party person in there. You can slide a Libertarian Party person in there, or whatever type of other political party there is, as an example. Those are the Greens, and the Libertarians are like the most well-known third party. So, but here's the thing. You need to go and reject a duopoly 100%. And ballot initiatives. So I'm going to vote in 2024 in this presidential election. What I will not do after that is ever vote again for another candidate for an office. I will, however, vote for ballot initiatives when it comes up on a ballot. And I would go and turn in an empty ballot otherwise and remain registered to vote. But I will always go to the voting booth and I will go and put in an empty ballot because, in the words of Tim Black, both parties suck Johnson. So anyway, let's see what we got here. We have Warren. Hi, good morning, Warren. How are you doing today? I understand the secret show is on tonight. I'll be at work, but I'll be sure to be watching it while I'm at work. Cantor and McCloskey, I've been trying to call you for the past week or two, and I mean, I know, imagine something's up or what have you. So, but I'm sometimes hard to get a hold of phone wise too. So, and you're right, war is always making the politicians filthy rich. That's what basically Dwight Eisenhower warned us about with the military-industrial complex speech. So amazing how Dwight Eisenhower in January 1960, imagine him sounding like the gray zone today. That's where we're at, folks. That's how far to the right we have gone. That a Republican for 1960 would be considered as far left as somebody from as Max Blumenthal from the gray zone. We're talking about Smigol, I see. Hey, how are you doing, Sean? I'm doing good this morning. I hate to say it, but it seems clear that Cornel West is doing his best to rig his own election for the Democrats. He's in a catch-22, sadly enough. And he doesn't want to be the next Ralph Nader. He doesn't want to be the next Bernie Sanders, and he realized that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Alaska and Oregon is as far as it goes for his ballot access. But I hate to break it to him. And I like Cornel West, and I respect Cornel West. And I'm willing to vote for Cornel West. But here's the thing about Cornel West. I believe that Donald Trump is going to sadly win this election. And I would say the same thing if I thought Joe Biden was going to sadly win the election. If I thought that Joe Biden was going to win, I would say the same thing. Joe Biden sadly win the election. I don't want either one of them in the White House. It's possible to not want a Democrat nor a Republican in the White House. I know that some people can't concede that, but it's the truth. There are times you do not want either clown in the White House. But, the thing about it is they're going to blame Cornel West if Donald Trump wins, which he's likely to at this point. They're going to blame Cornel West. They're going to blame Jill Stein. They're going to blame Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson for running in the Democratic primaries. They're going to blame the Libertarian Party, which those votes would have gone to more likely a Republican. They're going to blame Robert F. Kennedy with his independent campaign. They're going to blame Bernie Sanders for 2016 and 2020. They'll blame the squad, which I don't have much faith in the squad, but some Democrats still think that the squad are dangerous and they're embarrassed by them. And they're going to go and blame Russia. Russia. This is what they're going to do. And I'm warning any shit lip, I'm not going to go and put up with what I put up with in 2016 from the normie Democrats when I voted for Jill Stein and supported Bernie Sanders in the primaries in 2016. I took a lot of abuse online from a lot of those motherfuckers, and I will not put up with it this time. I'll be hurting some damn feelings when that happens this time. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I hate the two-party system. I've always hated the two-party system, Sean. Even when I was a partisan Democrat in the early 1990s, I thought it was stupid that we had a two-party system. I even back then I was just like, well, why can't we have something like they have in Europe? I was saying that in my late teens, early 20s. So anyway, if you all like what you heard, please press like and comment. Comment anyway if you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Also, remember to subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show. This is why you must go and press the subscribe button and that little bell to make sure. Because and the like button also helps with the algorithms, and sharing also helps with the algorithms, and viewing the channel helps with the algorithms. So always reject corporate media, whether it's Fox News and Newsmax and One American News Network, or whether it's CNN, or whether it's MSNBC, or the three main networks, ABC, NBC, CBS. It's all corporate media, and they have nothing to offer us, absolutely whatsoever. So remember that. And until next time, I'll have to say, free Palestine, free Julian Assange, free health care for all, and free speech. Take care. Y'all have a great day. I will talk to y'all next time. Bye-bye.